words about my experiences here at West and Gabriel Valley Realtors. I have to bite my tongue not to say Association of Realtors, because that's what I grew up with. I mean, I've grown up in this business, very much like your predecessors who you've seen. I started in 1966 selling real estate. I've been doing it ever since. That's a long time. Things have changed considerably. One of my predecessors mentioned how we started out with a one-page form. Those were the good old days. When you actually went out to a house and you showed a house, you came back to the office, you simply filled out a one-page form. You went face-to-face with the other agent, with the sellers of the home. The buyers were never invited, but the seller and the two agents faced together, and we talked about the offer. We talked about escrow. We talked about how long it's going to take to close an escrow. 60, 90 days was very typical in those times. I remember putting an offer in on the very first home. I was 20 years old. It was for $18,000. That was big bucks then. And I got refused because I was a woman. I was a single woman, and they would not lend to a single woman. Well, those days have changed, and for the better. Today, we have a very different environment. We don't face our sellers. It's all a paper process. I miss those days of intimacy, of being able to talk with the seller, finding out why they're selling, telling them about why my buyers want to move into their home. But change happens and life goes on. Today it's all a paper process, and I mean a paper process. You know, it's not unusual to have 3 inches of paper at the end of a contract, and I'm still an old-fashioned paper person. I've gone through big discs and little discs and these little sticks. But what's next? You have to keep changing your technology. The only thing I have to worry about is bugs eating my paper. But I'll go with the paper process. I've grown up in this business here at West and Gabriel. I have enjoyed the friendships I have made, the people that I have encountered. A lot of them are my dearest and closest friends. I don't know of too many now on the list that are ahead of me as far as age, and that's kind of sad. We're a dying breed. So I cherish the memories that I've made here. And I could start naming people, but I only have 2 minutes. But like I say, they're near and dear, and they are family. So I thank you for the opportunity to share my love for West and Gabriel and for this association. Thank you, and I wish you guys all the luck in the world in this wonderful industry and the times that we share in COVID. Thank you.
My name is Carl Feldstein. I'm a member of the West San Gabriel Valley Board of Realtors, and I want to tell you how special you are, because a realtor counts on his commission. Once that sale is completed, he's basically out of business. He or she are out of business. And so you've learned how to manage your money and your affairs, and you are the kind of person that makes this country great, because you ask for nothing and you give a bunch. This association, 100 years. Now, can you imagine going back in 100 years, over on Valley Boulevard, there was a piece of land, and the realtors got together and they decided to take that land and make it the home of the West West San Gabriel Valley Board. I believe it was called the Alhambra Board. They joined together and they realized, even though they were competing in business, they realized that by joining together, they were able to make a difference and with the cooperation. And even today, going back now in time, in 1966, when I obtained my real estate license, we had a half a page deposit receipt by the Bank of America. You would take that form and you would complete it, and that was the offer and the acceptance. And you put a transaction together with a half a page. Today, that becomes impossible because we have learned how to protect the buyers and create an environment where they feel safe. We've got the home inspection, we've got natural hazards, it just goes on and on, all of the things that we have and all of the disclosures, lead-based disclosure, and all of these disclosures. If you don't do that, if you don't do these disclosures, you can be in big trouble. Well, in 1966, there was just a half a page, and you didn't have to know too much in order to make something happen. You found the buyer and the seller, and you would meet an escrow and you'd put the transaction together. Now, the West San Gabriel Valley Board and all of the other boards have got training programs so that a new person coming in, and even an old person, I need to go back and study in order to be able to be equal with you on your level of knowledge, because you are right up there, you're doing it every single day, and I'm not. And the thing that I wanted to tell you is, when you're driving in your car and you're looking at the scenery around you, and you see these buildings, one building here and another building there, you see a residential property, homes that have been constructed, all of this has been done before you. Somebody else made the investment, made the decision, and created the wealth that we have today. And so you as realtors, all you have to do is find somebody that has a need and a want, and you bring them together. And the more you're able to take and help somebody get what they want, you're in a position to get what you want. I believe that every realtor should be smart enough to save their money, because that's the nature of who you are, and invest that money and get your own home and ultimately receive the financial freedom that that property represents. Do you realize that the United States of America came through the Depression, the Great Depression, and governments hate depression because they do not, their tools do not work. When it comes to inflation, mild inflation, they encourage that. So imagine the first home I purchased in 1966 was what? $12,500. The down payment, 10%. The loan was a 10-year loan with Pacific Savings and Loan. And that home that I bought for $12,500, what do you think it's worth today? It's worth $500,000. So all you had to do was buy 2 homes over a period of time, and that 60 years you would be a millionaire. Basically, financially free, and have the freedom to take and do the things you want to do. So I say to you, God bless America. God bless you, the realtors, because you are unique and special. And I want you to take and go out and reach big. Don't be afraid to go for it. Thank you. God bless you. Love you. Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Goetz from Coldwell Banker New Century. And I joined the West San Gabriel Valley Board of Realtors in the summer of 1973. Forgive me, but I've always called this the board, because when I joined, it was the board, it was not the association. So I've always just called it the board. So bear with me if you could. You know, I remember when I joined how nervous I was when I joined, especially when I went to the very first breakfast meeting I attended. But you know, I remember how friendly everyone was and how everyone was willing to help me begin my real estate career. I really appreciated that very much. Things were really different way back then, mainly because we had no CAR forms, we had no computers, no fax machines, no cell phones. We didn't even have a pocket calculator. What we did have was carbon paper, adding machines, typewriters, and correct type. Anyone remember those things? What we also didn't have was a GPS, but we did have our Thomas Brothers map books that we always had to have right by our side. And you know, another book we had to have was called it was a little book, and it was called a loan amortization book. And that was really critical for us. You're not going to believe this, but this is the way it was back then. We had to have that loan amortization book because back in those days, lenders did not issue pre-approval letters or pre-qualification letters. Guess who had to do the quote-unquote pre-qualification of the buyers? The real estate agents had to do that. And we had a loan questionnaire that we had to sit down with our buyers, for our buyers to complete. And we had, on the offer they made, we had to look at the amount of the loan they wanted to put on the purchase agreement. And we had to look at our loan amortization book, and we had to figure out what their monthly payments were going to be. And so, you know, that was extremely important for us, and we got those loan amortization books from the title representatives. But going back to the board, the thing I remember most about the board were the breakfast meetings. And boy, there were some real memorable breakfast meetings that I attended. The one I always remember the most was the one in 1978 when the speaker was Howard Jarvis, who was an anti-tax crusader and the main promoter of Proposition 13. That was quite an affair. Never forget it. That was at the old meeting place, the Realtors Auditorium on Palm Avenue in San Gabriel. And I'm telling you, the place was packed inside and it was packed outside. There were picketers, the media was outside. It was really, really something. But I'll also remember the great meetings we had with members of Congress and local elected officials speaking also. I have to mention the late Gloria Petrie, who ran the board for many, many years. I had an excellent business relationship with her, and she was a really, really good friend of mine. And of course, I also have to mention my mother, Rose Wynn. My mother served this board for many, many years and eventually became the board president 40 years ago in 1982. I always enjoy seeing her photo on the wall in the hall right behind me. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend the 100th birthday party celebration, but it's been quite an honor for me to have been a member of this great organization for half of its existence. Thank you very much. That's it.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, fellow realtors, and distinguished guests. Wow, 100 years already passed. How exciting. Time flies. Can you imagine I've been here half a century? I've witnessed the growth, the changes, and the obstacles that our association has endured during my time here. At this time, I'd like to salute our forefathers who had the vision of starting this board of realtors, not knowing that we'll still be here today. And who knows what the future is going to be for our board. 2, my passion is to have realtors trained, educated, and to be able to practice professionally. By taking our classes, attending networking events, and even going to CAR conventions. After all, CAR conventions is free. You're paid for it with your dues. 3rd, please be active at the Board of Realtors. Join the committees. There is a lot of committees that you can get started in and get yourself known that way. By paying it forward, you join in the different committees and into the leadership. To be a team player, not everyone can be a team player. You don't think about that. But once you get involved, you will become a team player. I learned way back when, in the year 2000, when I first got on the MLS committee by Brian. He selected me and I knew nothing. I sat like a fly on the wall my first year just listening. And then in 2010, when I was asked to step in as the treasurer for our board, I said no at first, but because of Lorraine Clark's persistence, she twisted my arm, got me involved. All right, my first call of duty there was to find our new AE. Our AE is Albert Tran. And boy, are we glad we got Albert. So he's been one of our longest standing CEO for our Board of Realtors. So that, I feel, was one of my best undertakings since being on the Board of Realtors. Of course, being a team player, how do you pass it forward? Of course, like I mentioned, getting involved. Do you know also why our board dues are lower than most other boards and we still provide more services to our members? Think about it. Most of you don't even know we have investment properties. So this is something that helps offset our dues. So why? Find out and become involved. Thank you.